Growth agencies have changed forever. AI is here to stay. There's more competition than ever. The market grows by 17% every single year. Now, the good news is that it's not all doom and gloom. I'm going to be walking through in this video the exact understanding that you need to be able to survive in this market, the insights, how to evaluate the market, to study the market, to know it like the back of your hand, while also knowing exactly how it is that you can stay ahead of any single market for now, also in perpetuity. And I got a bonus for you if you stick through the end. So that all being said, let's dive into the video.
All right, everybody. So there's two market dynamics to understand. Number one is the Porter's Five Forces, which is the bargaining power of suppliers, which is how much leverage do the suppliers of a market have within that market. So think, for example, Facebook at a moment's notice can shut you down, not ask any questions, and now you're out of business. So the supplier power in the digital marketing space is quite strong. Same with Google. Google can decide, yeah, you know what? We no longer want this industry on this platform, or we don't want these types of businesses to be able to advertise on our platform, for example, like repair shops. So there's always this cat and mouse game being played between Facebook as well as the digital marketing agencies within the space, because they can turn around and then just ban everybody. And guess what? Even if you're spending $250K a month on ads with them, it's just a drop in the bucket. It doesn't mean that much. Then there's the threat of substitutes. There's the threat of somebody coming in and offering a substitutive product or service. Now, the best example of this is AI. AI is here to stay. So everybody's popping up with these AI services that are extremely cheap, which is putting downward pressure, pricing pressure on the market, because everybody's looking at alternatives to be able to deliver their product or service. Then number three is the bargaining power of buyers. How strong are the buyers in that market? If there's only a few buyers in the market, then it means that they have all the leverage. For example, the airlines. There's only a handful of airlines because there's a huge barrier to entry. So as a result of that, they hold all the cards. They can bully the manufacturers. They are in a position of leverage because there's not that many of them comparative to the number of suppliers. So if there's a few number of buyers and a lot of suppliers, then it puts the bargaining power on the side of the buyers versus the suppliers. For example, in the case of digital marketing, everybody and their grandmother has a digital marketing agency. So what happens? It means that the suppliers are quite powerful, but then the buyers are not. And the suppliers are the digital real estate or the digital ad space, such as Facebook, Meta, among other platforms. And then there's the threat of new entrants. Is how big is the barrier to entry into that market? Digital marketing, very little. Anybody can go out, buy a course. Anybody can spend time on YouTube consuming content, how to make money online, and then file for an LLC, start a business tomorrow. So we're going to evaluate all of these in greater detail, particularly with the lens of the digital marketing space. Now, then there's the law of continuous innovation. Now, this graph is a little bit hard to read. So if you are anywhere but behind this line, I got tough news for you. You're not in the top 1% of the industry. This line represents the top 1%. It means how much output you get for the amount of cost that you have. So this is high output, high cost. This is low output, low cost. So how much money are you putting into the business versus how much money are you getting out, etc. Now, I'll get into this and what this means because I could talk ever about this. But in the meantime, let's look at the digital services market from the lens of Porter's Five Forces. Number one, competition or threat of new entrants. Well, because there's so many new entrants entering the space, offering Facebook ads, offering different services, offering different versions of the same service and calling it the same thing, the market itself becoming commoditized. There's a lot of downward pricing pressure to anybody offering these services because the market doesn't look at whether or not how good it is that you are at the Facebook ads without results or proof. They just look at, oh, you just offer Facebook ads. I've seen that 1,000 times. As a result, there's a negative compounding effect in the level of competition because there's so many new entrants coming into the market and clogging up ad space or buying ad space. It's increasing the cost of advertising, making Facebook even more powerful as a supplier. So they can drive up their costs of advertising while nothing really happens. They can turn on that pricing lever because they can. Now, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but AI is making it incredibly cheap and easy to replicate any business, putting further downward pricing pressure on the market. And this is only going to get more intense. And then number three is supplier power. Platforms such as Meta, Google dictate our entire ability to market, and any algorithms changes or example, election season, Black Friday, have enormous impacts on all of our businesses where they drastically affect our ability to deliver our service. I mean, Meta had been cracking down recently on ad accounts because of the election, and they may very well continue to crack down on direct response marketers as we have been seeing. And they could just decide tomorrow that they want to launch an agency and put thousands of people out of business. Now, email platforms continue to crack down on cold outbound, making it harder and harder to acquire clients profitably. So because of the supplier power of digital services, technology, etc., any changes that they make drastically impact our ability to operate our business. And it's not like we can just call Facebook or Google and get on the phone with them. Lord knows they ain't answering. They don't even answer our emails or support requests. So any of these changes put us in a position where we're forced to adapt. So what is the impact? People are going to continue to put pressure on us to charge less and less for services because of the state of the market. So how is it that we can combat this? There's good news. It's not all doom and gloom. Now, you need a way to be able to differentiate yourself in the market from competitors who are offering the same service as everybody else. The way that we do this is by solving more of the gap. By solving more of the gap and being able to offer more services to our clients, we put ourselves in a position to be able to exponentially increase our pricing power because we do more. And instead of the client needing to piece together different services to solve their problem, it puts us in a position to be the one-stop shop for there, which is how to take cold traffic to becoming a client as quickly as possible. So how do we do this? Well, I acquired an agency recently for law firms. We booked 48 calls for a client in 1 month. 20 of those calls were qualified. Now, the problem was that they didn't close any of them, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And what we had done is we built a do-it-yourself sales training program to help them solve their problem. What happened? They started retaining clients. Most agencies do not support their clients in this way, which is why they lose clients. They don't have an ability to solve the entire gap to say, oh, you're suffering with this problem, so actually you need this, and this solution to be able to solve that problem. It's like that Spider-Man meme. They blame the leads, you blame their sales process. Who's right? Doesn't matter. The client thinks they're right, so they're going to stop paying you. Now, the best part is that by being able to do this and think this way, it allows us to pull on the greatest lever of all, lifetime value per customer. Because a lot of companies, us as well, is we're used to paying 25% of the value of the client across sales and marketing to acquire that client. But if we can increase revenue by not having to pay that 25%, then it gives us a position to infinitely grow the client account. So if they require further support from us through these other additional services or having these other additional needs or gaps, it's an opportunity for us to make more money as LTV increases, profitability exponentially increases because of that aforementioned sales and marketing cost. So homework for you is identify which gaps to bridge that have the highest impact to the client. What is the quickest path to money that's going to lead to revenue now? Which are the high impact levers to focus on? And how is it that you solve for us? And how we do this with our clients is that creative is 47% of the reason why somebody buys a product or service. So we focus an enormous amount of effort on dialing in the creative. Step 2 is how is it that we can convert these leads into calls? What is the process? So we use meme follow-up cadences, call text, email, as well as nurturing content to funnel these people towards a call. And then lastly is the sales process. So these are example of the levers that we use for our clients to immediately take them from point A, point B, printing revenue from their ad campaigns. Now, you need to then sit down and decide and define the mechanism. Is it done for you? Is it done with you? Is it do yourself? Maybe you want to be the absolute insane person to decide we're going to do all done for you. God bless, more power to you. You could charge 40 to 50K for that solution, or you could do done with you, which is more consulting, coaching, etc., or do it yourself, which would be a course. Now, lastly, is you want to brand the mechanism to avoid being commoditized by the rest of the market, because I talked about this and watch the video on my channel on Alex Hormozi's opinion on brand, where by branding the mechanism, it allows us to stand out in a competitive marketplace. Our prospects are used to hearing every Tom, Dick, and Harry selling the exact same thing. Oh, we want to sell Facebook ads. Oh, we sell appointment setters. Oh, we're a sales agency. Nothing wrong with how you guys make a living. I'm not judging you, but the market is, and that's the problem. So by positioning the mechanism as something different or unique and branding it as new exciting thing is how it is that we can avoid being commoditized by the rest of the market. People like new stuff more than they like better. So let's look at the law of continuous innovation. Then why does this matter? Well, what's the difference between you and the top 1% of the market? Top 1% of the market is getting getting the highest yield for the minimum output. So say, for example, it'd be like the equivalent of planting one seed and getting 5 pieces of corn versus planting one seed and getting just 1 piece of corn. What do you want? Do you want 5 pieces of corn or 1 piece of corn for the same input, which is 1 seed? And this is why this matters. And this is the greatest part about entrepreneurship and building a business, is being able to compete and be able to build a business that creates things and creates higher yield and being of value to society. So achieving higher results for less cost. This is the hallmark of efficiency. My favorite example of this is that NASA used to launch rockets for $500 million. Then Elon came along and reduced the cost to $60 million. And he could reuse the rockets. So not only did he reduce the cost, but he could also get more output from the thing. I believe it's down to 10 million now of the launch. So higher output, reduced cost. Another example of how I put this into practice and how this applies to your fulfillment is when I had my agency and call center, I remember in June of 2022, I spent $14K 1 month on training. Fucking crazy. One of my biggest mistakes ever, where I delegated this to my team. And the problem is that I had no defined process or standard, clearly defined standards for how to produce results. So what happened? I hired 14 people at once and I fired all of them within 2 weeks because none of them were good enough. Fine people, but not towards the standard that we needed. Now, the profit and loss sheet is the best way to evaluate the actual output of a process involving the number one expense on any business, which is salaries. Now, by doing this, I was able to reduce the cost of training per new hire down to less than $200 per result. I had a defined, clear process with fixed inputs, cost to reduce the number one expense in our business. And the new hires produced over 40% of the leads were qualified versus less than 20% of not having these standards and definitions in place. So the secret is by understanding the exact inputs required to achieve those results, by pairing talent and systems powered by technology. Hopefully that's not breaking news to you. So the goal of any process is to both increase output and reduce costs. Easiest way to do this is to get in the state of best practice as quickly as possible. So if you know exactly where the state of best practice is, if you have the knowledge, if you're continuously researching, if you're continuously speaking to industry peers to understand the data and benchmarks, then you know exactly where it is that you are positioned in the market, and you can identify which levers you need to pull to improve. This is the most important part of being an executive. If you want to be able to grow and be in a position to work on your business and have the same level of freedom that I've been able to enjoy over the last 3 years, you need to be able to take a step away to understand what the exact ingredients are of the cake that you're making, and then understand in clear metrics how delicious is the cake, i.e. how much money is it making. Because if you don't get this, and if you're not continuously looking at the mechanisms of which you use to fulfill, to solve the whole gap, and understanding and having clear standards and clear processes, and then clear standards for how you measure the success of that process, then you're always going to be caught in the hamster wheel of trading your time for money. So this is why consultants make a living, is because they understand the state of best practice. They understand exactly the data that you need to be able to know, okay, this is how well we're performing, this is how well we're not performing. And then being able to adjust, like almost like you're looking at a GPS on a map to say, okay, this is where my destination is. How do you expect to get to where it is that you want to go without knowing what your destination is? That is why having the data and the knowledge on the front end is so important. And it's this way that I was able to take a step back from working in my business, despite making good money of over 100 grand per month, to be able to work on my business, working significantly less harder, and still be able to make over 100 grand per month. Now, this is why companies invest time, money, resources into R&D so that they can establish this knowledge. The same way that we invest time and energy into studying the creative, the same way appointment setting, sales, continuously moving the needle forward so that we can stay on that edge of the market. So if you want a breakdown of exactly the type of offer that is going to crush in 2024 while helping you not get commoditized anymore, treat it like for your market and your clients to stop treating you like everybody else and start appreciating what it is that you do differently, while also being able to charge more for your services, then click the link in the description detailing exactly how I scaled my growth agency from 20K per month to over 138K per month in less than 5 months. Now, if you want something that's a little bit more hands-on and you're like, Scott, this strategy stuff is great, but I just need clients. Fair enough. I'm actually launching a 5-day challenge for you to acquire 10 SMMA clients without spamming an entire country along the way. So join our Facebook group. That 5-day challenge is coming up and soon. So that all being said, folks, I'll see you on the other side. Cheers.